Good evening, my fellow friends and my readers. I take this opportunity to express something very important. I have been given, provided, or offered a communique from the universe that it is in some degree for some of you or many of you may consider it absurd or maybe unbelievable or many other words that can define that it's not possible. But I am Ruben Garcia, founder of the JerusalemAssembly.org, and it is really a humble position right now to express to you what it was given. But before I do all of this exactly, I want you to please remember I'm just a messenger. And as we say in our proverbial way of our words is don't kill or batter the messenger. I'm only passing on the communique. And it has been with me since last night, or early this morning, I should say, around 4:30 this morning. And it had taken me most of the day in a quandary in how to express, how to share, how to give this communique to our nation, because it's really directly to the American people. And as I say, it may sound absurd, but I would assure you, as a individual that has written, an author that has written a novel referring to the circumstances, the event, the situations which we're coined right now. And for those of you that have been following my previous article, you will know a lot about the Americas. So what I have to share with you is going to require to have an open mind. And before I go ahead and provide to you for your consideration, I must pass a little bit of history, circling back to the American history. I know all of you know General George Washington, that became our first president of the United States. I don't want to go through the whole historical thing except for one specific moment in the life of this individual, okay? We know him as the father of our nation, and rightly so. But during one evening, okay, of which I've sensed, the way I kind of perceive the communique which was given through imagery while I slept, that he was a very lonely man, a troubled man. One evening, he wasn't disillusioned. That's not what he was. He was so much concerned for the outcome of everything that was taking place. After all, if you'll remember, we celebrated Independence Day as the 4th of July, but in reality, we can say that it was actually August the 2nd of 1776 when actually 56 courageous men, it's the best we can say, patriots, leaders, that signed a document that represented to be actually the seal for an existence. Had they not taken the courage and the motivation and the love for what they believe, we would not be here. We would not be a nation that we are. The point I'm trying to bring about is that this great man, this leader, George Washington, took a time and way away from his devoted soldiers and knelt before God. That later on, we find out that in 8th of June, somewhere around 1783, he divulged the prayer that he made and was given to the members of this nation. But to give you an idea, what he was going through was troublesome. It brought anguish, and I'm sure at that moment, for those that can be military and unconfrontating, to take a mission, a journey, In this case, it was for independence. It was for the protection of those words, those thoughts that were given to the members, those 56 members that wrote the Constitution, a Declaration of Independence, I'm sorry. It was something that it was on his shoulder, as it is right now, to our people, or at least to our leader in this 2020 year. George Washington invoked, as I was given this through the message, a sense of assistance, a miracle, a sense of wonder. What's all this important and what purpose we have in the future? As I saw this, or as at least I perceived what they were showing me, he was a man troubled. But his faith, his belief in God was immense. A simple, how all this would come out. Help me understand, what must I do? He already had the means to be a leader, knew the military strategy they had to do. But you got to remember, he was limited, very limited in the resources that, let's say, Great Britain had. So in a way, the odds were against him. Not only the weather, not only also the conditions, but also the spirit, as we found ourselves now during this crisis. So therefore, his point was simply seeking God, seeking the hope, the faith that God would do. The beauty of it all is God listened to him. Not only God, but as I was shown, it seemed to be shared with me, there was not only one angel or one individual. It seems that he was surrounded by various, and inclusive Jesus. It was there that I recognized again that the guardian of this great nation is with Jesus. What I saw, and this is where your open mind has to be. This is very, very important. I'm not here to convince you. I am here simply to pass on to you that was given to me. A message. That's all. In one of the moments of despair, he wanted to know how far this nation will go, or what efforts that we're making for all of those who have died, that shed their blood and sweat and tears, that I have mentioned before, for the existence of this nation, this great nation. At that time, the word great nation was not even thought about. Just simply to survive was the key, was the principal thought. And that we wanted to know. As I was perceiving the imagery that it was given, or the communique, I believe that our father, our nation, George Washington, was given an opportunity of the future. They show him all the greatness this nation was going to go through, from war to changes, to everything, to leaderships coming and going, to whatever advancing technologies there were. But I think it also showed him a point in the future, 200 plus years later, that a crisis will appear, will resurrect, will come into our time, in which all the things that he was fighting for will be somehow contemplated to not to exist, or in another ways, to basically destroy all those dreams. He seems to have found an anguish when he saw that, like a pain in his heart, like we normally do if we hear of a news that in the future is contemplating what we are or what we become. It seems that I saw in his bowed head down, as a man would have placed his hand on his face in a way that maybe he would not want to see. But at that moment, they reassured him that it will come and it will go just as a storm does. The key that I want to share with you all now is that I sense, based upon what I was seeing, that somehow he requested to know, would there be someone in there, or maybe a group of people, that somehow we prohibit for the destruction or erosion of what they were fighting for, what they were trying to establish, what Declaration of Independence meant, what the 56 individuals wrote about it, or at least signed with their life, really, because they knew very well they could have been easily condemned and killed by the British Empire. So he knew very much what was at cost, what was the theme of this country. I believe, because I sense it, that he was given the sight, the foresight, the future to this time, 2020. He was given the opportunity to know that during this time, he, not in the same format, but his soul, his spirit, his mind, his devotion will be in the mind, in the heart, and in the body of another man. In other words, simply, that he will be returning to this earth exactly for this period, for this crisis. And it will be him that will be, I shall say, an integral part of a leader of this nation. It is my belief, and I trust this belief very much, for I trust the universe. It had nothing to do with reputation, who I am, what I do, or anything like that. I already told you before, I'm an ordinary man who was given circumstances in 1981, 1987, and I put it all in a published novel called God Chosen Ones. I'm here to tell you today, on this first day of December, which is very important, there's a lot of correlation on this time, not only the birth of George Washington, not only the birth or the time that the prayer was said, which I'll later on will gladly read to you. There's a lot of coincidences, but people will say, no longer coincidence, destiny, potentials that exist. The soul, the heart, and the spirit of George Washington resides in Donald J. Trump. I know that this may sound absurd, but I share this not only to the Democrats or the Republican or Independent, I share now to the American people. You are witnessing the anguish, the despair. You are experiencing the joy, but also the vast sadness. Think about all the things the British Empire did to the early Americans, and you will find that there's no difference in what has happened to our elections and the process of everything's been going on. People struggled back then for freedom, for democracy, and for the need to establish a nation. This nation was created by God and under God. And I assure you, the spirit of our first father, our great father, and a great leader reside within Donald J. Trump. Again, I know that this may Some will say already, because I understand how human nature is, as I'm a psychologist, that, we all can hallucinate. We all can be looking for series of grandeur or episode of grandeur in our life. I would assure you, not I. I took this commitment to pass into you because I believe God. I believe the universe. I believe all that is possible. I believe in the councils of heaven. And they all have gathered to have Yeshua and his 12. Jesus, his 12, in his council to ensure, the safety, the good health, and the purity of democracy. And I'm here to attest that our president, Donald J. Trump, will be reelected. And we will rise from that darkness into a light in which democracy and the election for the future of our children and our grandchildren will be preserved. And in a generation more, I will guarantee you, you won't have Pelosi's, Mitchell's, or any of the elder people that have sat there collecting their pay, giving hardships and everything. They will be replaced by a younger generation of caring or down-to-earth representatives that will continue manifesting, and will never forget the blood and sweat tears so many of our people gave, for them, especially our 56 forefathers who signed our Declaration of Independence. So, in short, I just wanted to share that with you. I will also appreciate that when you get an opportunity, read the other articles that I have written, in which I manifest a lot of spiritual comfort. It's called the Jerusalem Assembly.org, www.thejerusalemassembley.org. You will find a lot of, in some degree, in the inclination of my thoughts and, of course, the importance of this article. So I am very delighted to pass to all of you, especially to the blue team, I might call it. You have, even though you may not like him, you have our forefather, our leader, our first leader, George Washington, in Washington, D.C., and it is at the White House. Whether you want to realize it or not, I hope that when you come to the recognition that the hand of God is in this man, and that the spirit of Will Washington is in him, that you accept him and realize the greatness that the universe, the heaven, the great creative source, God, Elohim, Yahweh, as we can call him, and all the greatness that comes with Jesus and his council are in Washington, D.C. And I hope at the same time you can recognize that it also touches everybody. I'm not a politician. That's the least of my issues. I'm just a man who trusts and believes in the potentials that this nation has. It will be a change of consciousness coming up. In my previous articles, I already informed you about the 21 days, the 40th day, and I will guarantee you, I will show you that by the Inauguration Day, President Trump will be raising his hand over that. And remember, when he raises his arm, goes his hands out for swearing, you're looking at the spirit, the heart, and the soul of our first president, George Washington. With this, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord shine upon you. May the Lord grant you peace. May also grant you hope. May the Lord be benevolent to you. And may the Lord also, above all things, grant you peace and happiness and unconditional love to you, to your family, to your household, to your children, your grandchildren, and for all to America. God bless America 1,000 folds, for we are about to come a nation of much. And finally, I'd like to read to you this prayer. I please want you to keep this in mind. It was written by George Washington. And I'll make it my earnest prayer that God will have the United States in his holy protection, that he will incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, to entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another, for their fellow citizens of the United States at large, and particularly for their brethren who have served in the field, and finally, that he would most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, love mercy, and to deem ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion. And without an humble imitation of whose example in these things, we can never hope to be a happy nation. And with that, amen.